Bryan Kohberger, Taunting the Psychopath. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I should well imagine that the title of this video is one that you would file under things that make me say good. Learning that the psychopathic killer, Bryan Kohberger, is being taunted. But let's get into the detail of all of this. According to a report from the Daily Mail, written by Rachel Sharp, inmate number 163214 is now settling into his new home inside Idaho's maximum security prison. However, according to a law enforcement source, it's been far from smooth sailing. Bryan Kohberger is being relentlessly tormented by his new jail mates, who are shouting through the vents into his cell at all hours of the day. It is rattling the criminology student turned quadruple killer so much that he has made complaints to prison guards about the inmates keeping him awake at night. I'm sure they've said, "Oh, poor Bryan, here, have some earplugs and a teddy." It's driving him crazy. The inmates are tormenting him at night and almost all hours of the day, taunting him through the vents in his cell. Chris McDonough, a retired homicide detective who now works for the Cold Case Foundation, explained. They are literally getting up into the grate and yelling at him. The inmates are taking it in turns doing it. It is relentless. Kohberger is extremely annoyed and frustrated. He's complaining to the authorities that he can't sleep because of them. You'll recall that Kohberger was sent to the Idaho Maximum Security Institution after being sentenced to life in prison for the 2022 murders of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Zaina Knodel, and Ethan Chapin. Now, inside the state's only maximum security prison, home to the most notorious dangerous inmates, Kohberger is being held in solitary confinement, which I've spoken about previously with regard to the impact on him, in J Block's restrictive housing unit. This means he's locked inside his single-person cell for 23 hours a day with only 1 hour of outdoor recreation in what is known as the cage. During the rare 60 minutes outside the cell, Kohberger is moved around wearing restraints. He's only allowed to shower every other day. An insider told the homicide detective that the inmates in the nearby cells have joined forces to work together to target the newest face on J Block, taking it in turns to shout through the air conditioning and healing vents connecting the cells. Apparently, it's unclear exactly what the inmates are saying to Kohberger, but it's clear they're not happy about his notoriety. What it tells us is that the inmates are not happy with him, and he's just started in the prison system. The infamy of Kohberger and his crime make him a target for other inmates, the detective said. Because he's serving 4 life sentences, his threat assessment will be extremely high. There's some inmates that would want nothing more than to hurt him just to make a name for themselves. Based on his 40-year law enforcement career, Madonna says it's unlikely prison staff will take much action to stop inmates tormenting Kohberger because in solitary confinement he is not in physical danger. Over time, if prison officials deem it safe to do so, Kohberger could end up being moved to general population. But in the more than 2 years between his December 2022 arrest and sentencing, fellow inmates found Kohberger's behavior inside prison weird. Newly released Moscow police records reveal that one inmate told investigators Kohberger would spend hours on video calls with his mum, Marianne, while behind bars. The inmate reported one incident when during one of these calls he had said, "You suck," at a sports player he was watching on TV. The remark rattled Kohberger, causing him to respond aggressively, thinking the inmate was speaking about him or his mother. Naturally, this would be a threat to the psychopath's need for control, resulting in the response. He immediately got up and put his face to the bars and asked if he was talking about him or his mum, the inmate told investigators. Other than that incident, Kohberger came across as highly intelligent and polite behind bars, the inmate said. But he also displayed unusual habits such as washing his hands dozens of times a day, spending 45 minutes to an hour in the shower, and staying awake almost all night, only napping during the day. I've explained about those behaviours in parts passim linked to his psychopathy. Accordingly, Kohberger finds himself on the receiving end of being tormented. And what is the response to that? Well, the Idaho Department of Corrections has issued a statement following Kohberger's complaint. We are aware of Kohberger's complaints about what he considers taunting. Nice put down there. Incarcerated individuals commonly communicate with each other in prison. Bryan Kohberger is housed alone in a cell, and Idaho Department of Correction security staff maintain a safe and orderly environment for all individuals in our custody. A spokesperson for the Idaho Department of Corrections stated in an email statement. The department did not detail the nature of the alleged complaints. Short and to the point, whereby ultimately they're stating, we really don't care. He's safe in solitary. He's going to have to put up with it. Now, first of all, why are these individuals taunting him? Well, as the detective alluded to, some of it is because they might want to make a name for themselves with regard to causing harm to Kohberger. At the moment, they can't do so physically because he's separated from them by virtue of being in solitary confinement, and therefore they want to try and land blows on him by taunting him. It also, of course, alleviates the boredom for them. Presumably, they are in solitary themselves, or if they're not, because it's not quite clear how this is working in terms of them shouting. Is it the case that it's the inmates in the general population who have access to the air conditioning and they can all take turns shouting and it travels along into solitary confinement? Is it affecting others that are in solitary confinement, or is there some reason why there is only one vent directed into Kohberger's cell? It's not clear. But it's likely that if it's the general prison population that are engaging in this, it's to alleviate boredom. It's because they won't have any emotional empathy for him, because many of the individuals in that prison will be psychopaths with no emotional empathy, narcissists with no emotional empathy, or normals who would have no emotional empathy for a stranger such as Kohberger. Furthermore, the code that might operate is such that they would deem him as worthy of being taunted, with this strange hypocrisy that can exist amongst criminals whereby they deem certain crimes more disgusting and terrible than their own, and therefore it merits some kind of moral outrage on their part. Accordingly, the absence of emotional empathy, which is likely to exist for nearly everybody dealing with him in the prison population, the need to alleviate their own boredom, and also the fact that they want to do him some form of harm, they can't do so physically, and therefore they're left trying to do this by interrupting his sleep and trying to get to him with the taunting. Now, as I've explained, Kohberger isn't a narcissist, but he does like attention. But this is the wrong type of attention for him. In effect, what really matters here is that taunting threatens his need for control that he has as a psychopath. It's not making him anxious. It's not putting him in fear. It's simply annoying to him because it's a noise that's going on in the background. And he needs sleep. He doesn't need a huge amount of it, but he does need it. And if it's interrupting his sleep, again, that is a threat to control. He's not sat there quaking in his cell thinking, oh my goodness, they're calling me all of these horrible names. I don't like it here. Where's my mummy? Instead, he will be responding with contempt. And as a consequence of his entitled approach, because whilst he's not a narcissist, he will still demonstrate a degree of entitlement, he thinks it's appropriate to complain to the guards about the noise. And he's doing so because he needs to nullify the threat to control that's posed by them shouting and taunting at him. He regards himself as superior to them. It's also the case that he will be thinking, who do these no-marks, these shitheads, these lowlifes think they are? I'm the great Bryan Kohberger. I'm a killer. I'll get them. Such thoughts will go through his head in an attempt to nullify the threats to control that have taken place. But it's not making him fearful. It's not making him anxious. It's irritating and annoying him because they're failing to treat him with the respect that he believes that he should deserve. They're interrupting his sleep, and they're causing him to have to do things in order to alleviate the problem that they are presenting. Sympathy levels will be non-existent for Kohberger as a consequence of what he has done. The guards won't care. They're not going to get into trouble for him having to listen to taunts, and the prisoners are doing it for the reasons that I've already explained. So it looks like this is going to continue for a period of time until basically the prisoners grow bored of it because they're not getting any response from Kohberger. Certainly if they knew that he was complaining to the guards, that would galvanise them to do it all the more. But ultimately, they'll get fed up and bored of it, and Kohberger will have to await that occurrence. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.